but it is now happening through the military generals taking over by themselves, which obviously they want to push the continuation of the war for reasons that obviously they know themselves why do they want to do that. But I want us to start from the Bible, because I want you to understand how this war is very, very, very critical for the church, and how this war is very important for the church. You know, there's never been a war in the world before that was so much important for the church like the war in Iran. So before, in the past years, which I understand the reason why other people, they don't like this war, because there's been useless wars in the past. Useless wars that were being fought by America all over the world, which were never constructive wars, but it was simply wars of petty things. So the people are now tired of having these petty wars that were happening in the world. So because of that, they don't get to then see the necessity of this war, because they are blinded by their past experiences and what they have seen happening in the past through the American military and government. So they tell people, they say America is a warmonger, is going around the world fighting other countries, destroying and everything like that. It's been doing it for a long time, and people are just saying that America should just stop it. So they don't really see the necessity of why this one is different from all other wars. But I want you to understand why these wars that Trump is now engaged in is different from the other wars that were being fought by the same government of America. Let's, for example, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq, the Saddam Hussein hunting, and the war in Libya with Gaddafi. So when you look at all of those wars, especially the one in Iraq where they accused of weapons of mass destruction, with Saddam Hussein and others being accused, and then later they discovered that there were no weapons of destruction. It was simply just a ploy to destroy. And also the war with Gaddafi, that it was not a war, that there was nothing that Gaddafi had done but simply trying to make an African independent bank. And then Gaddafi was killed. And then there was war with Afghanistan again. And then they realized that the war in Afghanistan was not a war of anything good, but it was simply the American government administration of the time fighting for drugs. So they realized that in Afghanistan, those who were in control of America at the time, they sent soldiers to go fight for drugs. So people all over the world, they knew that America under those administrations was wicked. It was used for wicked things. So people knew about it. They knew that Gaddafi did not do anything wrong, but they killed Gaddafi simply because he had a different idea of how the African economics must be, and he was killed for it. But what people never truly get to understand was the stand of the American people and the stand of the government and the stand of what is called the deep state. So people have never known about the deep state because they had always thought the American government was controlled by a president. They never knew that all the American presidents were only just prefects or people who were just puppets that were being used by the deep state in order to do the bidding of the deep state, but they were never truly a government. So for a lot of years, the deep state used to own the American government. They used to control the American government and be the leaders of the government. That is why they rigged the elections. That is why America had not had free and fair elections in a long time, because the American people, when they realized how the deep state killed Ronald Reagan, how it killed JF Kennedy. So there were two presidents who happened not to have been part of the deep state. By mistake, they became presidents. The first one was JF Kennedy. So JF Kennedy, when he realized the vast network of the deep state that controls the government, he decided to confront them. But because he did not understand how big they were, they killed him. So they killed JF Kennedy and they thought they were done. And then Ronald Reagan became the president of the United States. So when Ronald Reagan became the president, he also tried to make some changes with the deep state, and the deep state, they killed him too. So from there, every American president became an entire puppet of the deep state, and the deep state was fully in charge. They knew that they will not make no mistake again to place someone there who is not part of them, because they didn't want to continue killing presidents. So they now made sure that each and every leader that assumes a position in America must become a puppet of the deep state. He must be a puppet of the deep state. So they knew they have to do that. So from that moment, all American presidents, from George W. Bush to Clinton to Obama, many of them, they were simply the puppets of this deep state machinery. So the wars that were being fought by the American government before were simply the wars of the deep state, and they had nothing to do with American interest. So what the deep state did, they hijacked the American government and the American administration and power in order to do evil around the world. So that's what they were doing. They were doing evil using the American might, American strength, and American power. Going all over the world, causing wars, destroying people's lives, fighting for drugs, causing human trafficking, doing every kind of evil thing that anyone can think about. So the deep state, they used the American military like it was their private security, or like it was their private terrorist group. And not only that, because they knew at some point that they might lose power in America, they started branching out themselves into different nations. They started branching out to be in control of different nations and different governments in order to increase their control over the world. So they didn't want to only control America, but they wanted to control the whole world. So they began to finance governments that they knew were corrupt. They financed them, they empowered them, then they controlled them. They did it in the Middle East. They did it in Africa. They did it in Europe and in Asia. They made sure they increased their network all over the world to make sure that the day they lose power in America, because they knew the American people were not voting for them. They knew that Obama, Hillary Clinton, George W. Bush, and many of those who were part of the American presidency were simply installed puppets that were never voted for by the American people, but it was simply the rigging of elections. So they knew it, that they rigged the elections, so one day they risk not rigging properly. So they had to make sure that the day they never rig the election properly, they will have a backup by financing nations that would align with them. And those nations, they became China, they became Russia, they became Iran, they became some African countries. So those nations, the reason the deep state loved them and financed them was because of the ideology behind their government. Because the Chinese government, it is simply a government which is controlling the Chinese people with absolute power and authority without any level of dissent allowed. So there is no voting in China, there's no democracy. And not only that, the Chinese government was brutal against Christianity. They were brutal against Christianity. They arrested missionaries. They outruled the Bible. So the deep state, they liked that. So they favored China. They gave China so much business. They gave China so much manufacturing ability. Obviously, some of the manufacturing being done through slavery of the people of China. But they gave them a very good publicity so that everybody admires China and everybody want to be like China. But not knowing that behind all of the economic success that China has, there is a vast cry of people. There is a vast murder of people and a great, great oppression of the Chinese people. Like that. So they did it in Russia. And then in Russia, they did the same thing because Russia at some point was hostile as well. They did it. Then they financed Muslims in the Middle East from Iraq, Syria, and they financed terrorists everywhere because they knew that one day the American government will be taken by the rightful owners, and the rightful owners will deal with the deep state. So they said to themselves that the day the rightful owners take the American government, they should have enough backup power for themselves to fight back. And they made a plan for that. They made a plan for that. So what happened is that they began to lose because Russia at some point began to realize the vast network of the deep state, and they freed themselves from the deep state. So when Russia started freeing itself from the deep state and realizing the kind of criminality that the deep state is involved with under the administration of Putin, then immediately Putin became the enemy. So Putin became the enemy of the deep state simply because he made sure that all the assets of the deep state that were in Russia, they were confiscated, and he then made sure that everything that the deep state owned in Russia was actually dealt with. So they hated Putin and they didn't like him because he now told them that in Russia we will not allow certain things that the deep state is advocating for. So Putin defected from the deep state and came to the good guys like that. So it happened that the good guys in America realized this amount of criminality that was done by the deep state under the American government. And they formed their own method of how they were going to deal with this criminality that was done by the deep state using former presidents of America and all those who were in the previous administration. So that is how Trump came to the equation. So Trump came to the equation as the man who was the insider, but yet never part of the cult. He knew how they operated. He knew the way they did things because he was a socialite. They loved him. They loved the way he lived his life in the world, how he lived flamboyantly, that even Barack Obama one time would even boast about it and say, if you want to live the American dream, you gotta live like Donald Trump. So that's how much they loved him. They loved him that they didn't even care to recruit him to be part of them because they thought the way that they love him, he is always with them. So they began to trust him in their circles. They would invite him to their birthdays, to the birthdays of their children. They would invite him and they will also go to his birthdays and go to his houses, to his sleep in his hotels. They will go to his golf courses. They will socialize with him because as a wealthy man, they loved him because he was wealthy. You know, politicians, they love people with something. So they loved him like that. So they will even ride with him on his private jets and see the sinks of gold, and they will admire him because of his lifestyle. And even Trump, you know, Trump was Trump at that time. So he will give them a run for their money.